Just time out with Nigel and Christophe, the podcast.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. We've been away for 3 weeks, and here we are. How you doing, Christophe? That was a big game you guys won last night. Congratulations once again.
Yeah, hello Nigel. How are you? I'm fine. The win was actually great, and well, it's already a few days ago, so
Oh
I'm
yeah, that was Friday. My bad.
yeah. No, but it's okay. I'm doing well.
Okay, so today we have a special episode, so to speak, right? Today we're going to be joined by Brian Carroll and Bob Hemmen, and we're gonna talk about, or we're gonna make our votes on who are our top 15
Mid-season. Yeah,
mid-season awards, so to speak.
yeah,
So first team, second team, and third team, correct?
yes,
All right. So just to make sure you don't get a vote on this one, you're gonna be more of a moderator.
yeah. So
All
it's
right.
my turn today to ask the questions, and having three experts here to vote and see who are currently the mid-season teams of the Total League for the men's.
All right. So let's bring in our guests for today. We have so you're going to join in. Okay, there you go. All right. So we have Coach Brian Carroll, our resident analyst, and we also have Bob Hemmen, our journalist expert also in the Total League. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great. Happy Easter, everybody.
Hello,
Hello,
Bob.
I'm doing great as well. Happy Easter.
All right, Christoph, you want to make some introductions here?
Yeah.
Like what things you're gonna what can they expect from tonight's show?
Yeah, so today we're gonna discuss who are currently the best players in the Total League of the first part of the season. So we decided to go in a similar format than they do in the NBA. So we have a first team, second team, third team, and our experts here are free to vote for whoever they want. We just have one rule: it's maximum 2 non-JICLs per team. So for the rest, we follow more or less the positions on the court. That we don't have one team with 5 centers or whatever, but as in the modern game, positionless basketball. So we can vote for whoever you want. So yeah, I think we start immediately to
Yeah.
make the first round. So for our first team, let's start with Coach Brian. Brian, do you have any locks for your first team?
I think for me, Philip Gutenkauf and Frank Mueller both have proven themselves to be at the best in their position with the the JICL players with Luxembourgers. I think that they've established themselves as the best playmakers and best inside players to start the season. And then after that, you can throw it up in the air for the other players that you want to be able to put in there. My choice at the 2 position is Mike Feipel. He's a young player. He doesn't get a whole lot of publicity for what he's doing because he's playing on a team that's at the bottom of the league. But I think that averaging close to 17 points a game, close to 8 rebounds, he's really proven himself to be really an elite young player at age 20. That's best days are certainly in front of him. And for the Americans, I look at your guy, Dwayne Johnson, and La Rochette is playing extremely well, leading that group not only in most of the statistical categories, but just leading them as a presence to believe no matter who you're playing against, no matter where you're playing, that you got the opportunity to win. And he's been exceptional all around, rebounding one of the top at 11 a game, averaging close to 23 points a game, leading one of the top leaders in steals, willing to share the ball and giving guys like DJ Wilson and Dylan and Malik Wilson all the credit and giving them an opportunity to really showcase their skill set. So he's on my list as a first team player, along with Henry Puono from Excella, who's one of the top scorers in the league and on a team that's in second place at the moment, tied for first, but without the tiebreaker with Orphanage. He's been exceptional to start the season, averaging 24 points and 12 rebounds and 3 assists. He's showcased himself as a top-level guy. So that's my first team to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Bob, how do you see that? Do you have the same players, or do you have other players in your list?
Yeah, I have the same JICL players actually, so I also go with Philipp Gutenkopf and Frank Müller as a lock, because I think it's pretty clear that those two guys are the best players so far. Speaking of JICL players, if you look at Gutenkopf's numbers, he's the leading scorer, leads in assists as well. So Eletzeller is having a good season, even if they had some problems. I think it's because of him. If you look the games they lost. He had bad days, so I think it's pretty clear that he's their key player. For Frank Müller as well, I think it's really impressive seeing what he's doing in his last season, how he's dominant in a lot of games, and it looks like he could play forever. Even if he has injuries, he's really good. I think the third spot for JICL was a little tough, but I also went with Mike Feipel, just seeing what he does at his young age. I think he deserves a spot on that team. His numbers at the age of 20 are pretty impressive. He's the second best scorer, also in the top 5 in rebounds, so that's really impressive. With the non-JICL, I went with 2 different guys. So I took Miles Jackson Cartwright from Basket Ash, because not only his numbers, but also like he's a floor general, like how he controls the game. I think it's exceptional, and he's the type of player I would like to have on my team when things are getting serious. So for me, he's one of the best pros in the league. And as a second pro, I took Steve Harris of Dutlange, because I think for me right now, he's the best player in the total league, even if his numbers probably aren't. I mean, they're good. He's the second best scorer, I think. Rebounds, he's top 10 as well. But I just think if you see him play, for me, he's a guy that can turn it on every moment. He looks unstoppable then. He's quicker than Clancy, and he's also a good remodeler. So that's why I went with him as a big on that team.
Okay. So we have here already 3 players for the JICL players who we can consider more or less a lock. I think Nigel, on your side, your choice is not that much different, at least for the JICL players. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, my first vote goes to Frank Mueller. Like like Bob said, for his longevity and for the fact that he's been averaging and he's been doing the same things over and over and over again, and no one seems to be able to stop Frank. He deserves that top spot, and I understand he's also number 1 in terms of the MVP race for the FLBB site. My second choice is also, like everybody else, Philipp Gutenkopf. That the guy has just blossomed, and the guy has just, well, like Coach Brian mentioned, the 2-3 episodes previous. Sticky has always been that way. His love for the game has always been evident, and he's always shown that he can deliver in big moments. But this year has really been for me an elite performance from Sticky, and not just in terms of the domestic league, but also abroad. And he's able to get all these things that he made, the experiences that he's had in the bubble tournaments, and bring it to the total league. My third spot also goes to Mike Feipel, like both of you guys. I mean, that kid, Coach Brian, you had him at 17 when in Bosch Raj, and you saw that potential in that guy. And he's been. I think you said it best. He was able to understand and realize just how good he can actually be. So in that respect, I think that Sparta's experiment for now, to me, works because of how Mike has been able to unlock his potential for this season. Um, my
Yeah,
non-JIC.
maybe before we get to the non-JICL spots, maybe talk a little bit more about Mike Pfeiffer, because he's like one of the younger players here in this group, and some people always tell me like, okay, the total league is still dominated by the veterans, but there are some young players coming up, and as you mentioned, Coach Brian, you coached Mike. Can you tell us a little bit more about him and what we can expect from him also in the future?
Well, the thing about Mike is that he can affect the game in a whole lot of different ways. When I had him, he was a first-year caddy, and he was the best JICL player on my team at age 16 when I was in Bosch Raj. He had games where he blocked 5 shots a game, had double-figure rebounds at 16, and then he was shooting the lights out at that particular time from the three-point line. So there was a conversation of who was the best player in his age group, a young player between him and Ben Kovac. And I thought that his ceiling was higher than Ben Kovac at that particular time because of his length and his ability to shoot the ball and his ability to really defend a lot of different positions. It's taken him a while to get to the point where he felt confident enough to do the different things that he's doing right now. But if he continues to ascend in a certain way, he could be another person that we're talking about leaving Luxembourg and potentially playing professional somewhere else. He has that type of ability, just as long as he remains confident in his total game and that he is not afraid to go after that game when it comes to shooting the ball the way that he's capable of shooting and wanting to take responsibility in big moments.
I agree. I mean, I've seen both Ben and Mike in the same team in the under-20s in Portugal. We also had Ludemuth in that team, right? But watching that team perform there, even if it wasn't a very successful performance as a group, you could see that Ben was Ben. Ben was being Ben, but you can also see that Mike was just there. Like, he was consistent. He knew he was going to get hit into the spots where he was supposed to get to and take the shots that he was supposed to take. And just seeing him being able to flourish at this year, I'm happy. I'm really happy for the guy. He's young. He's, like Coach said, he has a higher ceiling. And I'm not going to be surprised if other teams outside of Luxembourg, outside of the domestic league, come knocking. Good for him.
Yeah, I think, speaking about his size, that his size with his skill set is pretty unique for Luxembourg. So he's probably like the unicorn of the total league, because
the KD.
because you don't see that. Most big guys, like if you 2 meters, you play inside and you inside player in Luxembourg. For him, it's a different thing. So that's what I think. It's pretty interesting, and I really he's probably the guy I'd like to pick to see how good he can be in 5 years from now.
Yeah.
If I had a first pick of all the people in Luxembourg, I would probably pick him. If somebody give me a draft of who you would want for the next 5 years
to build your franchise,
in the total league at the moment, he would probably be my guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's kind of a praise for Mike. And let's see then, Nigel, on your side, who do you have for the non-JICL positions in your first team?
This stuff, non-JICL positions. I have Laquincy Redu from Walford. He's a great floor. He's there for me. Looking at that Walford team, he makes a huge difference from how they were last season compared to now. Basically, it's the same team, even with Xavier. But Laquincy Redu has been shooting really well. He's been scoring. He's been doing a lot of things for Coach Krebs' team. And even Coach Krebs, when he came on this show, he was talking him up. And at that point, I was like, okay, I got to see this guy. And he really delivered. I mean, as advertised, in my opinion. And my second non-JICL, I have to go with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, man. I mean, he's been stuffing the stat sheet. He's been doing everything for you. I feel like he does a lot of the little things defensively, and the things that are not seen in the stats, but you can see when you watch the game. He's a difference maker, in my opinion. And I think he has 23, 24 points a game and about 2 steals. So 2 steals per game, 1 block shot. So I mean, he's everywhere on the floor for you. I like that. He's not scared to make it up.
Right, Dwayne Johnson, 23.3 points, 11.0 rebounds per game, 2.8 steals per game. Yeah, that's
2.8 steals, Coach Brian. How tough is that to do? 2.8 steals.
It all depends. If you looking for steals, it's not so much different. If you're not really playing defense, it's not that difficult as it could be. But in his case, he's playing real defense and he's getting the steals. So he's keeping his man in front of him and he's able to get deflections and take the ball from people too. So that's what makes it really impressive, because I've been around other people who were searching for steals, and that can sometimes kill your defense when they don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for our first team, I think we have 4 guys, but we need the 5th one. So we have for the 3 JICL spots, we have Philipp Gutenkau, Frank Müller, Mike Peipel, all and anonymous votes from all the experts here, and we have Dwayne Johnson, who got 2 votes, but we need the 5th guy, and we have 4 different players. So what should be here then the decision? Let's start with Bob, man. If you would have to choose one now to finalize this team, who would be your choice?
Yeah, like I said, if I would have one left, I would go with Harris from Dillosh, because I don't know where he ranks on the other lists, but for me, he's the guy that can be really dominant, and I don't see any other guy in the Total League with his potential. I'll pick him. I don't know what the other guys think about him. Probably they prefer their guys, which would make sense. But
Well, I mean, actually, for me, honestly, when I was watching that first game from the restart, it was T71 versus Ash. I was surprised that Steve Harris was basically like doing everything against and having his way, so to speak, against Ash. I would have basically at the end, him and Clancy had almost the same stats, but yeah, Steve Harris was very dominant in that game inside. So I mean, for me, it makes perfect sense that you would pick him, Bob. Like honestly, how about you, Coach?
Yeah, Steve's a beast. I get a chance to see him all the time at T71. I just feel like for T71's team, when you have Tom Schumacher and Jamon Ivey, I think that he has a lot of people that he's working with, which can sometimes play against him with his stats. But he's plays hard every single day. He does what he is asked to do without really having a whole lot of plays that are drawn up specifically for him. The reason why I would pick Henry Puono is because I have the feeling that has more responsibilities than those other players, and his record is better than T71 at the moment. And I think that you can make the comparison of Jamon Ivey versus Austin Burgett. I think most of us would say that Jamon Ivey, as a co-star, is playing significantly better than Austin Burgett is at the moment. And I think that Henry has had to carry the load a little bit more. But I'm okay with being outvoted if we go on 2-1. But I'm gonna stick with my guy Henry.
I have no voting rights, but I just want to add something. I mean, if we have Steve Harris or Henry Puono on the team, we have two players from T71 or from Etzella, and we have no one from the leader of the Total League. So I mean, that's also something we should consider here in this vote.
I just think if we speak about winning, it's okay. Rizdorf, they lost 2 games, T71 3. So I don't know if that's a factor right now. I don't know what if you would like probably have a really, really bad record, I'd say it's okay. But if it's that similar, I just think for LaQuincy, I mean, for sure he's a good player. I just think he's not that complete. Like when you mentioned the stats, I see holes in his games, and I saw games where it wasn't good. So I don't know.
That's the beauty of Orphanons, though, is that they got multiple players in first place that can have the most points on that team on any given night. I don't think that there's a player that you know on every given night is going to be their top scorer. But like I said, in the case of Henry, you know he's leading the league in scoring, and he's one of the top 5 in rebounding. And like I said, his counterpart, Austin Burgett, I think that everybody would agree is not better than the other people's counterparts that they're playing with. So that's when you look at the stats, if I'm going on the stats and the wins, I think that Henry at this moment has proven himself on a team that's tied for first place with 2 losses. Okay, even though they don't have the tiebreaker with Orphanons. Henry has he's done everything that you could ask for an American to do to start the season off.
Christophe, how about this? We do it like for the first 4 locks that we have, we keep them in the first team, and then for the vote that's not unanimous, then we can say, okay, first team, second team, third team at the end of the 15. So we can, like, for example, if Bob votes Steve as the first team, and let's say Brian says second team, and I say second team, then that means he has 2 second team votes and 1 first team vote.
Yeah, we can do that. So
right.
let's continue then with the second team. So there we start again with the JICL spots. So let's start with Bob this time.
Yeah, so my second team is the Arancia team, because I got 2 Arancia players. Starting with the JICL, I got DJ Wilson. I think what he did this season, I was surprised, to be honest, that he stepped his game up, how aggressive he is. I mean, he told me that it's because of you, Coach Ney, that he became more aggressive. He tries to attack the basket, and I think that helped you guys a lot winning games. His stats are good, especially right now after the restart. He's getting better and better, so I think he should be on one of those three teams. For me, he's on the second team. My second JICL is Raoul Bierenbaum, also a guy that stepped his game up, playing on a different position. I think it was very interesting to see him off ball, showing that he can score the ball. He's top 6 in JICL scorers, and also like for years now a strong leader for their team. Unfortunately, we won't see him again this season. Probably we won't see him ever again on the floor, but we're speaking about mid-season awards, and he's a lock for me. My third JICL is Joey Kalmus from the Muzzle Pikes, averaging over 14 points and 7 rebounds in only 23 minutes per game. Because he shares a little bit the role with Buntic. For me, it's by far his best season so far, and the best JICL on their team. So for me, he's also on that second team. As non-JICLs, I got.
Let's stay with the JICLs first, and we then discuss the non-JICLs later. So Nigel, on your side, on the second team for the local players, who do you have?
Yeah, I also have DJ Wilson. I mean, that guy has been from the restart has been averaging like 18, 19 points a game, and he's been really aggressive. You know that his calling card is on defense, right? I mean, like he played Esh, and he limited for 40 minutes. He had him on Miles Jackson Cartwright, and Miles was averaging around 24, 25 per game before that game, and DJ 40 minutes on Miles kept Miles at 15 points a game. Okay, maybe you can say, well, it's just one game. But DJ's calling card has always been his defense. But the fact that his offense has been able to catch up with it, and with his athleticism and his length, I think that he deserves that spot, really. My second choice. Wow, this is gonna be tough. I like Raul, Bob. I like Raul. I had him as well, and for me, it was just if you're gonna say mid-season awards, and yes, he deserves it. But if you're gonna go long term and look at it like moving forward, then it's just stuff that he was hurt and he can't continue the season. I would pick Joey Thomas as well as my for my second JICL player. He is the best player in that on that Muscle Pikes team. I agree with you. My third pick is gonna come out of left field. I think for all of you, it's gonna be Mattis Wolf. For a guy who has averaged 2 minutes a game for Etzella for the past 2-3 years. I mean, be it injury or whatever reason, for him to come out and join Sparta at this point, he's just like 1 or 2 years older than Mike Feipel. 1 year older than Mike Feipel at the moment. And yes, his 3-point shooting at this point in the restart has been iffy, but to me, he is breaking out. He's scoring in double figures at 28 minutes a game, and averaging about 7 rebounds a game. He has 1 block per game, more or less, and he's been doing well. And I really like that kid. Even if people claim that Mattis is soft because of the injury issues and stuff like that, I think that he has a lot more to show. And he, with the way that Coach Mewers has given him, leeway in terms of playing time, he's been showing that he deserves that playing time for him. And to go up against guys like Steve Harris or Clancy Rugg, I mean, that has to bode well for his upside. So I'm going with DJ, Mathis, and Joey Thomas.
Okay, Brian, on your side, what are your votes?
I got the same as Bob. I'm going with DJ Wilson, Joe Commons, and Raul Bierbaum. I had the opportunity to be able to coach 2 out of those 3 with Raul and Contern, and seeing him take on that responsibility of a go-to scorer for that team with Mahalo being out. I had a feeling that with the way that he was playing, that this could be his last season that he wanted to play, because he had a kind of a look in the eye that I saw a few times whenever I was coaching him in playoff games, where he wanted the responsibility of being a go-to guy and making buzzer-beating shots and taking on the responsibility of guarding other teams' best perimeter players. He has always had it in him to be the top JICL point guard in the league. And for the first half of the season, I think that he showed that he was right up there with Sticky as the 1 and 2 for kind of combo guards in the league. DJ I had last 2 seasons in La Rochette, and there was games whenever he looked like he was the top player on the court, and we always wanted to be able to get consistent effort out of him. And I'm glad to see this year that he's been able to do that. I think that he's always kind of been the leader of that group in terms of being always locked into game plans and schemes and wanting to lead the group, not only verbally but by example. And this season, it looks like the guys are really kind of following Dwayne's and Terrell's in his lead on a nightly basis, and I'm happy for him. I got him as my second team. And Joe Coleman, to me, is a player who, if he had more of an opportunity, he could be putting up maybe some of the best statistics of the power forwards in the league. He's playing limited minutes off the bench, and he's the type of person at 35 minutes a game could be a person who was averaging in the high teens and double rebounds with 11, 12 rebounds a night. You're going to see more of what he's capable of doing as long as Keith Stone is out. I don't know the significance of his injury. He got injured against you guys in La Rochette. I don't know if they have any plans of him coming back, but as long as he's out, I'm sure that you're going to see Joe really perform at the level that he's capable of playing.
I mean, yeah. So we have here for the JICL spots, we have pretty much consistency, at least for 2 players who had all the 3 votes. And Raul Birnbaum, I think he got 2 votes. I think we should keep him there on the second team for the JICL spots because,
Yeah, I mean,
as you mentioned, he won't be able to compete for the final year spots.
yeah, true. But I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I also had him on my second team, but like if we're gonna talk specifically about mid-season, then yes, he deserves to be in that second team. All right, so I have no problem with moving him into that second team as well.
I mean, that's the awards. We do the same awards
exactly.
at the end of the season, and then we can talk about Mattis being able to get into that second team eventually. Yeah. So we can also say here again, still no Valfa players. So.
But why do you think that? Why do you think that? I mean, why are we not picking Valfa players?
Well, you're the experts.
They do it by
Bob.
committee.
Yeah,
they do by committee. Okay. How about you, Bob? What do you think?
Yeah, I thought about the same. So when I did my teams, I thought, okay, we gotta have some Valfa players in it. But for me, it's really tough to pick somebody out. I think you had Dean who had some great nights. You had Tom Connon who had some great nights. Malcolm Krabs as well. For me, it's really difficult to say, okay, he's their key JICL player and pick one. That's probably bad for the other ones. If you got a lot of guys playing at one level that we pick nobody out of them. So I think it was tough, but I think the guys we got so far all deserve to be on the first and also on the second team. So yeah.
Okay.
No disrespect at all to Team Valfa. That's for sure.
Yeah, credit to Coach Krebs for getting it all together with a group of players of similar talent.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go for the non-JICL players on that second team. Let's start with Bob again then.
So I picked Dwayne Johnson on my second team. I think you guys already said everything about him, what he's doing for that team. I think, Christophe, you know it best, how important he is for that team. My second non-JICL is Clancy Ruck, still one of the best pros in the country, very reliable. You know that he can step it up in big games. His numbers still good. He's top 3 rebounder, top 6 scorer. So for me, he must be on a team, and for me, he's on the second team.
Okay. Nigel?
I'm going to go with Steve Harris for the second team. If all goes to that, I'm going to go with Steve. And I'm also going to go, because I love these 2 guys when I watch them play against each other. I'm going to go with the big guy from Esch as well, Clancy Rugg, as my 2 non-JICL second team players.
Okay. Brian?
I'm going to go with Miles Cartwright Jackson. I think that his stats at this moment could be as good as anybody in the league. And I think that his presence on that club gives him a go-to person down the stretch to be able to finish games. And Steve Harris, for me, it was tough between him and potentially Clancy. I was kind of going back and forth with it, but I know that they battled each other in the head-to-head, and Steve got the better of him in that match. So I ended up going with Steve Harris as my second guy.
Okay, so based on those votes, I think then Steve Harris is getting the first team vote because he has 1 first team and 2 second teams, and we have no one else with the same vote. So Steve Harris gets the vote for the first team, and on the second team, then we're gonna have Clancy. And Miles Jackson. Yes, yeah. Clancy and Miles. Yes, I think that's the votes that we're gonna have. So maybe Bob, you want to comment on that? Is that how you see it?
I think really with the thing is with the non-JICL, it's that close. You can argue for
interchange. Yes.
Yeah, but I think we're good so far. If you look at those 2 teams. These are probably the 10 best players so far in the season. So I think we did a good job so far.
If I ask you guys, where does Tom fit into all of this?
We'll find out soon when we talk about the third team.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So Clancy, I mean, for Clancy, I mean, we have to say he played an amazing campaign with the national team, and. They also had with Ash some COVID trouble now after the restart. But if you just purely look at the stats, he has the best stat line in the total league so far. If you take out the ranking points, Clancy, just to remind you, his stats is 21.9 points per game, 14.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. 1.0 blocks, and he's shooting 58% from 2, 83% from the free throw line. It's really nearly close to perfect stat line.
Okay. Those are huge. Okay.
So, as a reminder, our second team is DJ Wilson, Raul Birnbaum, Joey Kalmus, Clancy Rock, and Miles Jackson Cartwright. So, shall we go to the third team?
This is gonna be tough now.
Yeah. Now it's gonna be interesting. Nigel, it's your turn to start.
So it really has to be me to break it. Okay, fine. I'm gonna go Tom Schumacher. Okay. I mean, you cannot talk about top 15 or top 9 JICL players without talking about Tom Schumacher. He's done it all. He's also, well, he hasn't been as flashy or as well, you can say he hasn't been up to par for most of the games that he's been playing, but he's still very consistent, and Tom still should be in that discussion for me. This is gonna be tough, man. But I have to go with okay. First, I'm going with Mattis Wolf now. Okay, since I chose Raul Birnbaum in the second thing, I have to go with Mattis Wolf, and I have to say, you guys, if you don't pick Mattis, I'm not. I'm just joking. But yeah, Mattis for me, I already told you why I like that guy. Why I think he deserves to be in this discussion. And my third pick is gonna have to be Xavier. Okay, he doesn't score. He doesn't score as much. Christophe, against your team, he only he scored what, 2 points on 1 of 2 shots, right? 50%. I could go with Rene Walsfeld because, you know, we all know how well Rene and Raul have been playing for Contern. I could go with that, but I have to pick someone from the top team at the moment, and it has to be someone. I could also go with Malcolm Krebs because he's a young up and comer. His best years are in front of him, but I feel like Xavier has been overlooked, and he's been the man he's been a big difference maker for Walfer. Even if he doesn't score, he does, you know, Ben Wallace type of player for me. I mean, he does a lot of things. He changes once he's there on the defensive side. He changes a lot of shots. I mean, against your team, Chris, I feel just basically all took jump shots when he played against him for most of the time. He was just standing there not knowing what he was supposed to do. You know, he's a big dude, but like that's the kind of effect he has. And if he only focused on offense, then yeah. But I would like to see a guy like this on my team where he can affect changes in how the opponent's offenses run, just because he's there, just being there. So I have to go with with Xavier this one. So I got Tom, I got Mattis, I got Xavier.
Okay.
Can I add
Right.
something real quick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's a non-JICL.
He
No.
is.
He became a
He
JICL
became a JICL
last
player
summer.
when he
Yeah, true. Yeah, okay.
when he
Yeah,
got
true.
his
Okay, you're good.
his
You're good, my bad.
passport.
Then
Okay. We
Okay.
can cut that out.
Oh, I'm good. No, I forgot. It's okay.
Okay, Coach Brian, what are your votes for the third team?
I've gone a little bit different than Nigel. I have Tom, as everybody knows who he is and what he represents to Luxembourg basketball. I think that as far as I know, this is potentially his last year as well. And if that's the case, I know that he wants to be able to leave with an opportunity to compete for a championship in T71's 50th year. And that's, he doesn't have the same role that he's had in the other years of being a primary, the go-to guy. But I think everybody knows if he gets an opportunity to close a game, that there's still a fear in the opponents that he's going to step up and knock it down. So he's still on my list. I have Malcolm Krebs as a guy who's emerging into that conversation as the next up-and-coming great Luxembourg player. His stat line isn't the best compared to some of the other players, but I think that he impacts the game with his defense. I also think that he brings a toughness to that group on the perimeter, along with LaQuincy Rideau, that those guys aren't going to let anybody go to the basket without feeling their presence. And I think that as he evolves into a better scorer, you're going to be talking about him as long as he stays in the Luxembourg League as one of the top players in all of the total league. And I also have gone with Christopher Jones, even though he's not been extremely efficient in his scoring, his percentages aren't the best. He's still competing and he's showing up and one of the top scorers in the total league, playing for a team that still has an outside chance of getting into the playoffs. And if he can be able to get his percentages higher across the board and the team can be able to play with him in a way that they had hoped to play with him to start the season, I still think that he is one of the top 9 talents of JICL players in Luxembourg. So I picked those 3.
Okay, interesting votes here. Bob, how do you see that?
So I agree with Shumi to start off. He doesn't look to score 30 points every single game now, but he's still a dangerous player. And I think if you prepare to play against them, you always got to know where Shumi is. He can always have a big impact on a game. And he's putting up still, his numbers are okay. I mean, scoring-wise, it's nothing special, but he's second in assists behind Sticky, which is good for a player that usually look to score first. And I think it will be interesting to see him how he'll play in the playoffs. If he will step it up for his last games, I think that will be very interesting. My second pick is Christopher Jones, because I'm just impressed what he's doing so far, because last year when he played National 2 wasn't spectacular at all. He showed that he can still have a big impact in the total league, and why he was one of the best players a few years ago. And also he can defend like you said before of DJ. I think the same counts for him as well. He can guard pros from the other team and also have an impact and in the offensive end. So yeah, one of the best players for me as well. My third pick was really tough. I think there's a group of maybe 5-6 players that could get in. I went with Pit Beaver from Basket Ash, who has a good season also with 12 points per game. Had some outstanding games against Residence and I also think against Arancia. And you can see that he likes the role he plays on that team, sometimes coming off the bench and doing different stuff, playing hard every game. So for me, he deserves a spot as well.
Okay, so from the votes we got here, we have two players I would say that are locked in Tom Schumacher and Christopher Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should let the third spot open for now. Let's see if we can find an agreement already on the pros, and then
how about you choose that last spot, put you on the spot from every name that we mentioned here. You played against all. I mean, you've faced them this year. Or is that putting you too much on the spot? Should we go first with the non-JICL
Yes,
players?
let's finish with the non-JICLs first, and then if there is a decision to take in the end, I mean, as a coach, you have to take decisions. I'm gonna make a decision then. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So for the non-JICLs, Nigel, what are your ideas?
Well, I have to go with Henry Pono. I mean, you cannot not include this guy, be it in the second team or third team. You have to go there. And Coach Brian said everything I have to say about Henry Pono. I think that he can, come playoff time, it's going to be different for him. He's gonna, I think he's gonna show us a lot more than what he's showing now. And I have to go with Jimon Ray Ivy. I know I like how he's playing. I like how he and Steve Harris are playing well together. In that sense, like they complement each other, and it shows on the floor with probably not with their last game or last two games, but it shows that they have this chemistry and that he can play a secondary role, and he does it pretty well in my opinion. So no disrespect about playing Robin to someone's Batman, but I feel like these two guys are really perfect fits for what T71 has at the moment with Tom and Frank Mueller. So yeah, those are my two guys.
Okay, Brian, who do you have?
Now I have Clancy, who I didn't include in my first two, but I know that he's already on the second team from the votes of Nigel and Bob. The other one was extremely tough for me because I wanted to be able to give the Quincy Redu his due for leading the group in first place. But as I mentioned before, I think that their group is more of a collective group. And even if T71 in our group ends up having 4 players and they're not even in first place or in third place, I think Jamon Ivey is a player who, if they're going to compete for a championship, is probably going to be the closer for that group in terms of being able to make different plays for himself and for his teammates, because he has that kind of skill set. He's really a super talented guy. It's just about him not falling in love with the jump shot so much and showcasing his playmaking ability and his ability to get to the free throw line. So if he's able to do those different things, I think that you could have in a conversation at the end with him being much higher than the third team.
Okay, Bob?
So I also went with Pavono on that third team. I agree with everything you said, Nigel. What he's shown so far is impressive. And I also have a feeling that he can even go to the next level coming playoffs. So I think, yeah, he must be on one of those teams. My second non-JICL pick is Adam Eberhardt. Like I said before, the little teaser for me, he's more important for that team even if his game is not spectacular at all. He does all the little things for that team. Huge rebounder, number 1 defensive rebounder in the total league. And Residence is the best team so far, so there must be one guy on their team as well.
Okay, so we have Henry Pono here as a lock on the third team because he got 1 first team vote and 2 third team votes. And then for the last spot, we have on the one side LaQuincy Rideau, who has 1 first team vote, and we have Jimon Ivey with 2 third team votes. So what are the choice we're gonna take here? I'll let the floor to everyone to make his case. Nigel, you voted LaQuincy into the first team.
I voted for both of them though. I voted LaQuincy Rideau in the first team, and then I voted Ivy, Jimon Ivey in the third team. Yeah. But okay, if it's gonna be up to me, man, that's tough, man.
I mean, if we just go by basic points, a first team vote, you can say it's 3 points. Second team vote, it's 2 points. Third team, it's 1 point. So LaQuincy Rideau would have 3, compared to Jimon Ivey having 2 times 1 point. Okay. I mean, if everyone can live with that.
Yeah. I'd say we need to have 1 pro for Residence, so I think that would be the good choice.
Yeah.
We agree on that?
I would agree on that.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's mid-season vote, so there's still playoffs coming up. So
Good. So we have on the third team, we have still one spot up for the Luxembourgish players, for the local players, next to Henry Pono, LaQuincy Rideau, Christopher Jones, and Tom Schumacher. So, I mean, Nigel, let's start with you. You voted for Mathis here and also for Xavier Robert François. Maybe an underrated player, Xavier Robert?
Yeah. I mean, what can I say about Xavier? I mean, yeah, he doesn't score as much. Like I said, he doesn't score as much. But if you're going to talk about total impact on the game, he has that even without scoring. However, I can listen to arguments from the other two about Chris Jones and who else did you pick?
I had Pit Beaver, but for me, it's
Beaver
group. So
Yeah.
I agree with Xavier Robert François. I just have the feeling that he could even impact the game even more. So I saw him really sometimes defensively really good, but sometimes you still see him. Yeah, and if that's the only thing you're supposed to do, I don't know. I think it's tough. I mean, he could be on that group. You can argue for me. You can argue for 5, 6, 7 players. It's tough.
I mean, okay. One question though is that no one. Rene Wolfsfeld, where does he fall in your lists?
No, he was a guy who was up there close, but the problem is that Constern is not one of the top teams in the league. So when you're looking at in terms of guys who are affecting the winning, Constern is not in discussion of a team that's competing for a championship. In the case of Wolferdons, they are, and I picked another Wolferdons guy, Malcolm Krebs, because I feel like his ceiling, even more so than what he's done at this moment, is one that is extremely important to that team's success. But I can see exactly where you're coming from with Xavier in terms of his impact on the court, and I can see exactly where you're coming from with Pit Beaver, because he's coming in like Tom Conan is for Wolferdons and willing to jack that thing up to make sure that he gets his points. And both are doing it in a way that helps their team win games. So I say that Christophe is he's made a lot of right decisions so far this year in La Rochelle. He can make the right decision here too.
Okay, one more thing. Like, if you were to put another guy aside from Mathis beside Mike Feipel, would it be as effective? I mean, yeah, they're not winning games, but they're keeping it close.
My main problem.
And he's averaging almost the same stats as Mike is. So I mean, in my opinion, like they're interchangeable. They're so interchangeable that even the ones running the stats from the score or from the bench doesn't know if it's Mike or Mathis who scores the points. Like, like you can see in the scoreboard, like in their last game against T71, scoreboard had Mathis at 21 points, but in the stat sheet he had 15. So I mean, like they're almost at the same spot. They're almost averaging the same points and rebounds and rebounds. No, Mike Feipel is basically better at rebounding and better at 3-point shooting. But is there a case to build for Matt this year, or is it just me? Anyone can answer.
No, I think for me, if you look at Rene Wolfsfeld, his stats are better than Matisse Wolf, and he's playing with 2 pros. And I think that if you're going to ask a team with no pros that's tied for 10th place in the league to have 2 people in the top 3, at this moment, they should be the favorite to win the championships next year when they get 2 pros. And I'm not sure whether or not I can say that about Sparta now that those 2 guys, when they're playing with professionals, are going to be able to keep those same stats. I think with Mike Feipel, he can emerge into being a 15, 16, 17 plus a game point player playing with 2 pros. I don't know if Matisse Wolf in his real first extended playing time is that guy just yet, but his ceiling is as high as anybody in the league, and I think that's an excellent choice too.
Okay, fair enough. How about you, Bob? What do you think?
I'd agree with that. Nothing against Matisse Wolf. I think he's a really good talent, but I don't know if we should have 2 guys from Sparta in our top 3 teams when they have only 2 wins this season and they're second class. So I think that's tough. And also, if you play with our pros, I think there must be guys that take the rebounds, that score. So we're going to see next season. Also, what if it really helped them to do what they're doing now? So that would be interesting. But for now, I think we would be good if we stick with Feipel on our first team and then look for another guy that's probably winning more games right now. Yeah.
I think if I can add a name that has not been mentioned here so far, okay, he missed some games because of injuries, but I think Ivan Delgado is someone we should really take here into consideration. Also, if you take into account what he did during the national with the national team, I just I just give you his stats so far, just to have them in mind. So right now, he had 10.4 points per game, shooting at 56% from two, 41% from 3 points, 5.9 rebounds, 2.6 assists per game, 0.8 steals per game, and only 1.8 turnovers per game in 24 minutes. And they're at the top of the league as well. So um, maybe that's also someone we can consider here, or is the injury situation that he missed a few games too important right now?
That was the only reason why I didn't have him on my list, is because I felt like he missed a lot of games. I don't know how many games he had missed, because I know from the restart I think he missed at least the first 3 games.
Yes.
So I mean,
He missed 3 games.
Yeah. So he played 10 out of, or 9, because I think Excel might have missed a game. I'm not sure how many games they played total, but I honestly feel like Yvonne is more than deserving of a spot on the 3rd team had he played all the games. And if 3 games is the only amount of games that he missed, I would have no problem with him being on that team either.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only reason why I didn't mention him as well is because of the injuries and because of the missed games. But if we say 3 games out of 12, then that's like 25% of the mid-season, which is what this is about. So, but I would consider putting Ivan there if 3 games is not that big of a deal for for the mid-season.
I mean, he played the first 5 games before there was the break, and then he missed the beginning of the restart, and has played 3 games since.
And they haven't lost whenever he's been playing, so I think that they're undefeated in the games that he's played. So for me, that's
true.
You know, that's
He's a walking bucket.
He's proven himself to be mentioned as one of the top JICL players in the league for sure.
Agree. Okay, that makes sense.
So we put him in?
Yeah,
I mean, like I said, the only reason was was his injuries, but I'm good with it.
I think it's that close. So, like I said, there's so many guys. I would probably agree with all of them. So I'm okay with even, especially because I'm pretty sure he'll be on our teams at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so we put him in as the last guy of our 3rd team. So we have Tom Schumacher, Christopher Jones, Ivan Delgado, Henry Pono, and LaQuincy Rideau. Mm-hmm. And that's all we have. So just as a reminder, 1st team, we have Philipp Gutenkopf, Frank Müller, Mike Feipel, Dwayne Johnson, and Steve Harris. 2nd team, DJ Wilson, Raul Birnbaum, Joey Kalmes, Clancy Ruck, and Miles Jackson Cartwright. And for our 3rd team, Tom Schumacher, Christopher Jones, Henry Pono, LaQuincy Rideau, and Ivan Delgado. So to wrap all these awards up, I would say let's just vote and see who our JICL MVP and non-JICL MVP for the first part of the season is. So it should be someone from the 1st team, I would say. But let's start with Brian again. Who would be your MVP so far?
For the JICL, it's going to be Philipp Gutenkopf, even though he doesn't average a double-double like Frank. I think that he's the I think that Exceller would have a harder time winning without him than T70 would without Frank Mueller. And I think he's really taken that responsibility as a leading scorer in the JICLs, and also the leading assist player in the JICLs of being really the future of that position in the total league. And for the top player, I mean, I may have to go with Dwayne. I might have to go with Dwayne, because I've seen just his leadership with that group that you have, and getting those players to buy in completely on both ends of the court, and taking on the responsibility of being one of the elite defenders and also one of the elite scorers, one of the elite rebounders in the game. Steve Harris obviously has proven himself to be a great player, but I'm not sure down the stretch that he's going to be their go-to guy when it matters. And I think down the stretch for you guys, that you guys are going to be counting on Dwayne to be able to make the right play to help you guys win the games. And I think that your surprising start to the season is in large part because of his contributions and DJ Wilson's contributions and Terrell's contributions, even though you've gotten it from everybody all around the board. So Dwayne will be my guy.
Okay, Bob, how do you see that?
For JICL, I go with Frank Mueller. I'm going to use the same argument that Brian used for Sticky, just for Frank. I think if you take Frank out of that team, they'd have no chance to compete for the title. And maybe with Sticky, it could be the same, but I still see other guys on that team that could step up. For Frank, his role for me is pretty unique if you compare it to other JICL players on other teams. All the stuff he's doing, he's got to be the MVP for me, at least so far, what he's showing. The non-JICL MVP, yeah, it's tough, but because I had Steve Harris on my first team, I stay with him. Probably the stats won't tell you that he's the best player so far, but I think the eye test, he wins it. He played against, like you already said, I think that game was really interesting when they played against Ash. How he played against Clancy was for me one of the best performances. Even that game wasn't amazing stat-wise, but still I go with him because I think he's the best pro now in the totally.
Okay, Nigel?
I'm gonna go with Frank for the JICL, Frank Mueller. No disrespect to Sticky, I like him I love him as a player, I love him as team leader. But going with what Bob said, like aside from Tom, and now that that Kevin Moore is back, then at least he has one more guy that can help out the team. But if you look at that team, aside from Frank and Tom and Kevin and the two pros, who else is there to carry the scoring load? I mean, I don't see anyone from the bench being able to be as effective as maybe some of the guys in the Cella. So just because of that, and Frank, if he plays his last year and he's playing as consistently as he did in his first few years in the league, then he deserves that for me. He deserves that that MVP nod. For the non-JICL player, I have to go with Dwayne Johnson, like everybody else. Christophe, I think that was a great pick that you got out of Mersch, bringing Dwayne into Arancia, and you can see how much it feels like his attitude and his everything that he's doing is rubbing off on the guys on your team. Like Coach Brian also mentioned earlier, it's like this team has been through a lot. Your team has been through a lot where they've been in too many close games where it's like they know that they're in there, that they can win these close games. They haven't won all the close games, but there's always that feeling that we can do this. And I think part of that stems from the leadership that both Tyrell and Dwayne have. Tyrell is obviously a huge part for you as well, a huge piece. But I think that Dwayne has been the more consistent and the more aggressive pro that you have on that team. And I think that most of your success, has also been dependent on how great Dwayne has played for you this season. So, I mean, I don't think anyone expected Arancia to be in this conversation at this point in the top 5. And I give that credit to you, to your team, and most importantly also as well to how these guys fit into the Arancias, fit into that group, and how they're able to lead that group into the top 5. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Dwayne.
Okay, so we do have Frank Mueller as our mid-season MVP for the JICL players, and Dwayne Johnson as the mid-season MVP for the non-JICL players. Is there anything you want to add on those awards, or are we all fine with that?
How about breakout player of the year? Who do you think, Coach Brian and Bob? Who do you think is a breakout player this year? Not the MVP, but someone who has come out and just balled or just totally shown what he can do.
I always go with Mike Feipel. We put him on the first team at age 20, and last year, if you would have said it would have been a mid-season award where Mike Feipel was a first-team player, most people wouldn't have agreed that would have been the case. And he's certainly stepped up and showed that he's capable of playing with anybody in the league, and hopefully the best is yet to come.
Yep. How about you, Bob? You feel the same?
I absolutely agree. I think, we put him in our first team. He's 20, so he's the breakout player so far. We're going to see how it will be next year when they play again with pros, because I personally don't think that it really helps them playing how they play right now if he cannot play the same role next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we got to see if they really take pros that they can play alongside Mike, and how his stats and how he will be next year. That will be very interesting. But so far this season, yeah, he's by far for me the breakout player. It's not even close.
Who do you think is going to take over Raoul Beerenbaum's spot in the second team?
It could be Mahalo if he's capable of doing what he did last season as the top JICL scorer. Last year, I believe that he was. And I don't know. You had a chance to play. I don't know if Christophe had a chance to play against him whenever he was healthy. I think he had come in the game afterwards.
We played him in the preseason once, but not during the season.
Yeah, so I mean, he's the guy who everybody looked at as being the heir apparent to Tom Schumacher as the best Luxembourgish or JICL guard in the league. And now with Raul being gone, it's his role to step in and do what he has been doing the last few seasons for them and be their top scorer. So I don't know whether or not all the games that he missed is going to impact how he's looked at the end of the year. But if they make a top 4 push without Raul Beerenbaum, then I think that he will be in that discussion for one of these spots for sure.
True.
Also only 22 years old. Huh?
Yeah. Do you see any of these guys, aside from Mike, we mentioned already that Mike has the potential to leave the domestic league. Aside from him, do you see any of these guys also maybe getting a chance at international play?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean,
all three of you.
From my point of view, or from what I've heard, is that Mihailo is also one of the guys who was at least looking in the past for some getting experience abroad. I don't know how his situation is right now, but I think he's a player that could eventually also get a spot abroad. Ivan Delgado is another player who well, he officially has ambitions to play abroad. He's a member of the army now to get a professional status as a player, and with what he has showed during the bubble with the national team, he's definitely also a player who could find a spot abroad. But it's always with the Luxembourgish players, to get a job abroad, it's like you need to find the right spot, and that's always tough because you in some leagues you compete with Americans to get a spot. In other leagues, they have rules concerning local players or Bosman players or whatever, and it's really the job of the player and his representatives or agents to find that right spot. I mean, if you look, for example, Ben Kovac, they found a good place for him where he can play. I don't know now the details of his stats, but he's more or less the best player of that team, I think. From
as a sixth man, yeah.
As a sixth man, so that was a great choice, and we have to see. I mean, Mike Feipel, he brings something with him. He's very young still, has good size. I don't know how his academic situation is, if he has ability or he wants to go abroad. I don't know. But
he's studying now, so I don't think he's looking now. But if there would be an opportunity, at least he said he would probably take it. But like you said, I think it's about the situation. For me, it makes no sense to leave the country just to leave the country. So if you get an opportunity like Bandit, like hopefully Ivan will get, I think it will make sense if you find a good league where you could get some playing time. But I think all those guys also know that probably for them, Total League is also interesting. Like there are not many leagues where you could have such a big role as Mike has right now. So probably it could also help him to stay for 1 or 2 more years and then with even better stats and after some successes in Luxembourg, then leave the country.
You got somebody like Malcolm Krebs, whose father is American and he has family in America, and he's potentially thinking about studying in the United States. I think the last person that I remember that was studying and playing basketball was the guy in Sparta that played at Drake University, Wiesler. Frank Wiesler. So that hasn't been something that a lot of the males, the men have been wanting to do is showcase their talents in the States, but that could be something that if everything goes the way that he wants, that he could showcase his talents in the States. I think DJ Wilson he had done it in Barton University for 1 year, but the majority of the Luxembourg players would prefer to be able to study in Europe as opposed to study in the States. Malcolm could be an exception.
Okay.
Do you see anyone on your side, Nigel? You
Well, I
also
mean,
worked a little bit with the youth national teams in the past.
Well, Malcolm Krebs definitely, I think, has a lot of potential to be able to go abroad. His age makes it optimal for him to, like, he can go into college right away, and I know that there are some mid-major Division I schools that are looking at him, and that's a good thing for him. I'm not so sure about his academics, but according to Coach Alex, he's really been working on that as well. But at what age is it too late for these guys to get into a situation where they can find abroad? Because 22 for us here, maybe, yeah, it's young, but 22 somewhere else, it's it's a little too old. And if you wait 2-3 more years, you're gonna be 25. I mean, I'm not so sure about what situations you're gonna be able to find yourself in.
Well, it depends on the demand for your talents. I mean, Alex Lauren was here for quite some time before he ended up going.
Yeah.
And if you're talented enough and somebody wants to take a chance on you, you could be in your 30s and somebody could be willing to offer you a contract. So it's for the university side. I mean, they're not normally going to bring in freshmen that are in their 20s typically at the university level. But now that they have all these different transfer markets and everything else in the States, that could change as well. So at the end of the day, it's all about your talent. If you're good enough, somebody's going to reach out to see whether or not you're able to play for their program.
Okay.
And the Army thing is a good thing for those players as well, because it gives them a big chance even to probably go to clubs that can't give them a big salary, but still they can live just by the money they get from the Army combined with the club. So I think that's interesting. Like Alex did it, like you said, Brian. He won some titles. Yeah, I think he left at the age of 24, 25. So that's late, I would say, but it still works. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Do we have anything else to discuss? I think we made the round of everything that we had prepared. So just to take you a little bit off guard. So
are you talk about Coach of the Year?
No. No, we talk about, like, who are your 6 teams that gonna make the playoffs?
Oh. All right, you guys take this one first. I call dibs on the last place.
Right.
Let's
start with you.
Okay,
I think we have a few locks here, I think.
Yeah, I think at this moment, I think there's really 7 teams that are competing for the 6 spots, and I think Music Pikes at the moment is in the 7th spot, and if they don't get Keystone healthy and they continue to play with one, then they could be the team that is the odd person out. But if I'm just looking at the standings, and hopefully I can pull it up. Conturn, I think still with Mahalo replacing Beerbaum is capable of being able to step in to that role. It doesn't look like Heffingen at this moment is putting enough pressure on the teams in front of them to catch them. So I think it really has to do with the health of Keystone, because you guys have the tiebreaker with them, which is basically gives you an up for them trying to catch you, and you already having a tiebreaker. That basically puts you 3 games in front of that team. And Conturn at this moment, they have the tiebreaker with you, but I don't know whether or not they can be able to compete at the level that you guys have been playing with in La Rochette to be able to even catch you guys. So as long as La Rochette is injury free and continues to do what they need to do, I think that you guys are pretty much a lock to be able to get into that playoff position, and you'll see Conturn, Music Pikes competing for that last spot.
Bob?
Yeah, I agree. I would say if I had to guess now, I would say that Conturn will miss the playoffs, and the other teams that are in the top 7 right will make the top 6, because Raul had a big role, and you saw right now it will probably take Mihailo a few more weeks to get in rhythm. And I don't know if you have a lot of time right now. They need to win games now, so I don't think that they can just replace Raul one by one for now. So for me, Conte can be the team that falls out of the playoffs.
Mhm.
Nigel?
Yeah, for me, I agree with Coach Brian here, and you know how the way the Pikes are doing. I mean, again, if it's a toss up between Contern, Esh, and the Pikes, and if the Pikes continue to play with just one pro, then it's gonna be hard for them to compete at that level or at that rate the way that you guys are going. For locks, yeah, of course, Walfer is basically a lock. Piece of anyone. Of course, you guys. I just noticed you guys are tied for third place, and and with Etzela. So yeah, in my opinion, I'm sorry, but I think if situations are going to be the same moving forward, then the Pikes might miss out on this one.
How serious is Keepstone's injury though? Because you were there whenever you saw it, so I don't.
It didn't look that bad. I mean, they played Telstar this weekend, so I guess they just let him out because that's a game you can win without him. So we're gonna see the next game. If he's there, I think he will be playing. I think it didn't really look bad.
Like all bets, if he can play, then I would agree with Bob that I think that they're gonna they can be able to overtake Contron in the standings. And I know there's a whole bunch of different makeup games that are going on too. So the way that the standings are right now is a little bit different than what it will be when everybody's playing the same amount of games. So it's important for you and La Rochette to be able to stay on that gas too, because those other teams that are competing for those same spots is hunting you. I think you guys would be in the loss column at fifth place. So it's important for every team that's in the league. Nobody, even Wolferdon's in the top spot, with that 3 through 6 playoff seeds and the 1 and 2 getting a bye. I mean, all these games in the last second half of the season is going to have extreme importance.
Yeah, I
How
mean,
about Ash?
if you check the last column, I think we can say that there's eight teams even, because Heffingen only has 6 losses, same as Conton. So they have 2 games to play still to get the same amount of games. I would not take them out. And Ash, as you mentioned, they have 3 losses.
They have
So
3
3 losses only. So I think we have an 8-team race here for the top 6.
Yes, I agree.
Does Ash still have like games in hand or games that they haven't
Yes,
played?
2. They have two games to play still. They have to play Muselpikes, which is of course a big one. And the other one they missed was against Heffingen. I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
those are direct games, basically.
That's really key games for both teams. So Heffingen, if they win the 2 games that they are behind, so they would beat Ash. They are back in the race. I mean,
at the moment, they're not playing like a team that's expected to make the playoffs. So I think that's, from my perspective, if they're going to get in that conversation, their play has to pick up significantly.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other remarks or stuff you want to add that we didn't point out in those mid-season awards? Is there anything?
For me, this is great, and I can't wait to do this again for just before the playoffs. You know, I mean, it is always fun having Brian around and now having Bob as well. It's been a great discussion, in my opinion. Like, yeah,
I agree. I mean, this was we kept it way under 2 hours already, which is good. I think if we edit a little bit out, we can make this really an episode that is interesting to listen to for everyone.
What are you talking about? All our episodes are interesting to listen to, man. Come on.
No, but what I want to say basically is like these kind of discussions are most of the time not held publicly in Luxembourg. I mean, it's a too long discussion to put it in a newspaper. Let's say it like this. Here we had the time, the podcast gives us the time to really go a little bit deeper into the analysis of those teams. And I think this will bring motivation to a few of the people who are not mentioned as high as they think they should.
Mm-hmm. They're going to have our photos up on the wall. I'm showing you, man.
But I will say this, when you look at the National 2 professionals, and there's always this idea that can somebody play in National 1 that's been playing a long time in National 2? And you look at Dwayne Johnson being considered to be the top JICL player in this discussion, and he played 4, maybe 5 years in Merce, and you had Alfonso McKinney in Bearberg, and people in Dudelons at a certain amount of time was wondering whether or not he had the potential to move from National 2 to National 1, and he ended up moving 2 years later into the NBA. I think that everybody needs to realize that these people that are coming in from the outside, it's not about the level that they're at where they're playing, it's what they do when they're there. And if you give these people an opportunity to play at the highest level in Luxembourg, even if they played in the second division in Luxembourg, it doesn't mean that you can't win with those players.
So there are multiple examples like this of players from the second league, and that league is sometimes overlooked. The games that were played in the playdowns, play-ups, that gave an opportunity for National 1 teams to see those players.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still rare that a National 1 team picks a National 2 pro to bring him in. There's also the transfer rules that are not favoring this, but I think, and what was also for us one of the points why we made those choices were you know what you get, and you better pay a transfer than paying multiple plane tickets.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right. Okay. Looks like this is a great episode, and it's like 11:30 in the evening, so might as well we wrap it up and look forward to the next time we 4 of us get together again for another discussion on this one. So, okay, Bob, thank you very much. Coach Brian, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time here with us, and happy Easter. And this podcast is coming out on Wednesday, so we'll see if we're gonna get some comments on our picks. Yeah, it's always nice. It's always nice. All right,
fellas, have a great one.
Thank you. Guys,
thank you. Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, we're back, and that was a very, very good discussion, in my opinion, Christophe. What do you think?
Yes, that was very interesting to have all these different voices here giving their votes on who are the most important players of the first part of the season. I must admit, I'm a bit surprised by the results. I didn't expect it this way, but I can live with it. Dwayne Johnson getting the MVP for the first part of the season, I was not expecting this at all, I must admit. Frank Müller was less of a surprise, I would say. But it will be interesting to see how the season develops and where we stand after the whole regular season.
Dwayne's not a flashy player at all. He does his job, and he does it well. And some point it might not be sexy enough, but he gets a job done, and he's a great leader for your team. And I don't think that for those of us who watch games on the regular and not just base it on stats, you can see the impact that Dwayne has on your team and on your league. Frank, I've voted basically for Dwayne and for Frank in the first team. No surprises there as well. Sticky was a very, very close second. And I think towards the end of the season, we're going to see a more spirited race for who the top JICL player is going to be. Okay. Any surprises on exclusions?
The most obvious one is, as we discussed. He was in the end. We voted him in, Ivan Delgado. You could say we have no JICL player from Valfor. We have only one non-JICL player from Valfor in the third team. So that's for me the biggest surprise. I mean, they are the leader of the league so far. And yeah, I mean, I would have expected them being ranked higher in the votes, but this maybe shows how consistent this team is, and that there is no one really standing out as an individual. Um, as mentioned by Bob, Adam Eberhardt, he got basically no consideration at all for any of the teams, and he's putting up really great stats, and he's one of their leaders in the group of Coach Krebs, and yeah, so that's my surprises, if I would say it like that. On the other hand, another surprise you could also say is being Mike Feipel in the first team. As mentioned, Sparta is not competing for the title, and being so young still, and he got 3 votes from 3 voters being in the first team. That was also a surprise for me.
For me, I don't feel like it was a knock on Walfordowns, the team and the players, that none of them were voted into the top 15. Because you guys said it best, like they do it by committee, and to have like 7 or 8 guys that are equally dangerous on a nightly basis, I think it's even better as a team, for a team effort, than just to have just 1 or 2 go-to guys in a team. If 1 or 2 of these guys get stopped, then you know it's easier for them to maybe lose the game, because then the others have to step up, and you don't know if they can step up. But for a team like Walford to have like 7 or 8 guys who are all at the, let's say, all at that level, to be able to be as dangerous as the next guy, then that's credit to the team and their organization and Coach Krebs, and it shows, with how they're leading the league at this point. All right. So, well, this has been a great episode. We have been out for the past 3 weeks, but it's nice to be able to come back and talk basketball again. All right. So, we good? We're done? Is a wrap?
Okay.
All right. So, thank you very much, everybody. And, on behalf of Coach Christophe Ney from Arancia Lorchet, I'm Coach Nigel Tolentino saying thank you very much and have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.